Morning. Today we're going to do a review on the Massey Ferguson 9S.425 and the Massey Ferguson 24-row corn planter we've been using. So if you're new to the channel, this is Massey Ferguson's tractor. This is not our tractor. They sent us this tractor this year to run. And yeah, we're very grateful for that. So I thought we would give a review on it. Now, they did send us this tractor, but I'm going to give my honest review of this tractor. Them sending it to us did not, I guess, influence what I'm about to say, because I like this machine. There are things I think that could be improved upon, but for the most part, it's been a pretty good machine. And same way with the corn planter. This is not our corn planter. This is Massey Ferguson's corn planter. This is the second year running one of these. Last year we were actually supposed to be running it on a 9S, and well, things didn't quite work out, and we ran a planter just like this one, same specs, on our Fendt 1038. So I've got 2 years on the planter, on a planter. It was not the same planter, and 1 year on the tractor. So let's pull it over and get her unfolded, and we'll talk about both units. So as we're pulling the tractor over where we're going to do this video, one thing I do remember, this is a few months after planting. I probably should have done this right after planting, but this year our planting season was so hectic. We went right from planting into wheat harvest, then into spray season, then into fair season. It's just been one of those years. But one thing I do remember that I really like now that I'm sitting in it and driving it, the visibility. Now keep in mind, I've ran a 1038 since 2018 now. So I've gotten very accustomed to a 1038 tractor. Well, they are great machines. They have a very big hood. Visibility is much better out of this machine as far as front visibility. The hood's smaller. Side visibility is fairly similar. It's probably a little bit better. Back visibility is a little bit better as well. But the hood, I like the sleek profile. It's a little bit more nimble of a machine. Sides. So you're going to have what you're going to have over there as far as the emission stuff, but overall, like the visibility out of the machine. And then also the cab, when you walk into it, it's a very modern feeling cab. It doesn't feel like you're stepping into a time machine like some, well, I'm not going to name any names, but some machines do, I guess. As far as the room and comfort in the cab of the machine, I mean, I'm 6'4", and I have plenty of space. I'm 6'4", 270 pounds for reference, so I'm not a small individual. I was extremely comfortable in this cab. I never felt cramped up or anything like that. I always have a camera bag with me and usually a lunchbox, so even with all that stuff on the floor, still had plenty of space. Behind the seat you do have some storage, but here's probably one of my main gripes. I don't have any cups in here. This cup holder, is there a cup in here? There's not. Well, yeah, here we go. Cup holders. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I know that is a very minute detail. I drank a lot of coffee. I wish the cup holder was big enough to fit a Yeti tumbler and not spill it everywhere. As far as charging ports, which is definitely something that is needed these days because a lot of your stuff runs on them. You got standard 12 volt here, USB sockets there. I can't remember what else we got. We got power sources down there for monitors and stuff, but I think that might be the only 12 volts. Now the monitor, I think they call this the Datatronic 5, I believe. This was my first year using it as a steering monitor. It wasn't terrible. I prefer an ag leader. I guess if I was buying this machine, I would probably get an ag leader. And if I was going to run OEM, I would get the auxiliary monitor. So you can have another one of these right there. This monitor for me is just not quite big enough to see my tractor functions. I like to see what remotes are on. That way I know if I accidentally hit one or if something happens, I know it. I can see it. But sometimes with this particular, let me get to where I need to be. Having a little, oh, here we go. Here's our GPS screen. Nothing wrong with that, but I'd like to be able to see my tractor functions too. That's why if I was going to run the OEM monitor, I would have the auxiliary right there. I do like the A-pillar gauges on the Fendt. Those are right here. Some people like one, some people like the other. It doesn't bother me either way, as long as they are clean and show what I need to see. Now on the Fendt, you have the ability to take like that steering, like what you're seeing here, and put right there. That is nice. I don't do that very often. I typically just leave it to what that is. That is fine with me. But if I was buying this machine, I'd most likely just run an ag leader, because that's what I'm very used to. The Datatronic 5 did steer very well. I can't remember. I'm assuming they probably use Trimble steering in this, since AGCO now owns Trimble, at least on the farm side of it. And I had no problems with the steering. It was fairly accurate. Did everything I needed to do. This tractor was running RTK, it was running RTK, and yeah, it did great. Controls. I don't know, for whatever reason, this up and down here, it confuses me. I have a tendency, so this is my number one remote. I've always had it as up and down. I have a tendency to push right past that. Make sure I get my hydraulics locked. I've always had a tendency to push right past that and go into float, which I don't want to do. There's just not enough feel in that particular button. The ones down here, no problem with them whatsoever. I like being able to use this though to do everything. This is a CVT transmission, so I am pulling back on this stick and using that remote. It's kind of nice that everything's right here. I just wish there was a little bit more feel there. Not a huge complaint. Eventually it was not an issue, but it took me probably 20-30 hours to get used to that. Take off, go on, and we'd be in float, not where I needed to be. But overall, not the end of the world. Just wish there, like I said, a little bit more feel there. As far as that, I think the rest of the controls were fine. Like everything, your radio runs through here. Like, yes, you have a radio there, but I'm pretty sure everything is pretty much, yeah, right here. So then you have quick controls to get to those. Same way with your heating and cooling. It is also right here in your monitor, but you also have an ability to adjust those quickly. Lighting is the same way. Everything basically runs through these monitors. That's why if I was going to buy this machine, I would get two. I do wish that this was a cool box. On some machines, if they don't have a fridge, they at least have a cool box. This one doesn't seem to have that. Basically all the cool box is on the Fendt, it is basically this almost exact cubby hole. Different shape, but pretty similar. And it has an air conditioner vent in it. I mean, it'll keep a water drinkable, and it'll keep a sandwich from melting, I guess, or spoiling if you eat it by 11. I like the cool box. I wish it had a cool box. Like I said, overall, the rest of the controls were fine in this machine. Now that we're on the outside, let's talk about some of the specs of this machine. Now, this is a 9S.425. 9 is the frame size. This is Massey's largest frame size. And the 425 is maximum horsepower. So most modern tractors, somehow in their numbering system is their power. Like, for example, our 1038 is 380 horse. A John Deere, like an 8R410 is 410 horsepower. But sometimes you got to watch, because different brands will show the maximum boosted horsepower, or they'll show the non-boosted horsepower. For example, our Fendt, the 1038 is the non-boosted horsepower. That's the raw power. I believe that is the boosted horsepower. So would be pretty comparable to the Fendt as far as our 1038 as far as horsepower. The main difference is going to be this is an 8.4 liter AGCO engine. Our Fendt is a 12.4 liter MAN engine, I believe. So a little bit difference there as far as displacement. I could definitely tell in some of the rolly terrain. A 24-row corn planter does not pull super hard unless you're trying to go 10 miles an hour, and that's a lot of mass you're pulling through the field. And I could tell it in a few areas, but for the most part, I never felt underpowered. There was one instance in particular. We were going up a pretty steep grade. We made it. We never spun out. We did not make it very quickly, but it still planted just fine. Fuel capacity, I think as far as fuel economy, I think this thing was just fine on fuel economy. I think it was very comparable to our Fendt. Maybe just a tick higher, but not bad. I mean, I was having to run this at higher RPMs versus our Fendt. It's a little bit lower RPM engine, just the way it behaves. But fuel economy wasn't bad. The main difference I seen was 150-gallon tank. I wish that was closer to 200. That'll really just make sure that I'm getting a full day. I know if I hook this tractor to a tillage tool, which I'm hoping to do this fall at some point, we may have to go get fuel after 8 hours or so. So That'll, well, probably 10. Guess it depends on what we're pulling. So I guess that's something I'd like to see. I believe the DEF tank's 17 gallons. The DEF wasn't ever an issue. You're always running out of fuel before you run out of DEF for the most part. Again, I guess if we start pulling something super hard pulling, that would change. But usually I just fill them both up at the same time because they're at the same spot on our operation. So I never really noticed that being an issue. I mean, the tractor can be weighted differently. This one's weighted down pretty good for this 24-row corn planter, and tires are the same way. There's lots of different tire options. We've got 380 38s on the front, and on the back we've got 480 95 50s. So I don't know if you can, I assume you can get the 54s on this. We had a Fendt once with 54s. It's a big tire, so it makes for a very tall machine. I'm pretty sure you can get them, but I'm not 100% on that. And then a lighting package. This thing has fantastic lights. If you can't see at night when you're running this tractor, you probably don't need to be running it because you might be blind. That was my opinion. It had great, fantastic lighting. Front weight, this is just a weight. This is not a 3-point hitch. I don't know if that's an option. It might be. I've never needed a front 3-point hitch. But yeah, this is just a weight cube, kind of like how the Fendt is. Around the other side of the machine, we've got entry to up here. This is our hydraulic reservoir. As long as there's a ladder there, it's not bad. The styling of the machine, I think this is a pretty slick looking tractor. I really like the color scheme. This is Buckeye country. It kind of reminds me of something that should be keeping the grounds at Ohio University, or Ohio State University. Jeez, don't want to get disowned by the people. But I think it's a beautiful tractor. I think it's a kind of a neat kickback from what the previous Massey Ferguson large frame tractor, I think that was the 87 series. This looks to me much more similar to something you would have seen from Massey Ferguson back in the 80s as far as the color scheme with that red and silver. So aesthetics aren't the main worry on a tractor, but I think it's a pretty sharp machine. So now I've got the planter all the way up for it to lower the hitch, but there's a lot of hoses and a lot of wiring right here because, well, planters are complex pieces of machinery. There's no way to get around that. You're doing a lot of stuff quickly. So there's a lot of things hooked up here, but with the planter off of this thing, you do have decent access to your remotes. They're a little high up though. That's one thing I always look at, is how easy is it to get to. On our Fendt, for example, they're kind of a pain in the butt with a 3-point hitch to hook up hydraulic remotes. I would say this is very similar in that you can take that hitch off pretty quickly. If you're not using a 3-point implement, you don't need the 3-point hitch. That's kind of the attitude we've adopted, so we take them off unless we need them. Hitch drawbar is pretty standard there. And then, like most tractors, we have buttons back here on the fender that you can set in there to control certain hydraulics, and then PTO on and off. That's all pretty standard things on most modern tractors. Toolbox, not the greatest toolbox. Not really all that big. If I was going to own this machine, I would probably fabricate some kind of apparatus to hang off of this and put me a proper sized toolbox that I could actually, at least hold some of the bigger tools that you'll need. I mean, planning, I like to keep the wrenches I would need to replace an opener, pry bars, hammers, stuff like that. And well, that toolbox isn't quite big enough for that. One thing I did forget to mention, this machine does have an air ride cab, and also auto turn is a feature that this machine has. I never used auto turn. Some of my boundaries, this is not the tractor's fault, we're not the greatest, and I think auto turn, you kind of need those boundaries to be pretty solid. So I never actually used that feature, but the machine does have it. We do have a front suspension system, but it is a little bit different than what I'm accustomed to, but it is there. One other thing, this has an air brake system, and this took me a little bit of getting used to. This is just because of the machine I'm used to running. And I thought this when we got those Fendts. The Fendts have a feature where when you stand up, they go into park, which is great until you get in something that doesn't do that. With this, you actually have a shuttle right here. Pull it out of park. And it's fun once you get the hang of it. In fact, once I quit running this machine and hopped into the Fendts for beans, I found myself reaching for that little shuttle shifter up there pretty often. Not the end of the world, just something a little bit different than what I was used to. So nothing too major there. Took very little time to adjust to. Now let's go back here and let's check out the corn planter. So like I said, this is a Massey Ferguson VEF24. And yes, I had to look at the sticker because I've always just called it the 24-row Massey corn planter. Now I know a lot of people will say, well, it's just a white. It's not. It says Massey Ferguson right there on the sticker. But I think it's fairly similar in the basic design of what the white corn planters were. There might have been some rebranding there, but this one is all outfitted with precision meters, so it does not have white positive air meters or anything like that. We've got a precision planting VSET meter with speed tube, hydraulic double downforce, all the things. Oh, we also have the Reveal row cleaners. Really like those. They're a little dirty. Our pressure washer went down this summer, and I have not power washed this planter yet. We blew it off, but didn't quite get it good enough. Would like to wash it at some point, but I like the Reveal row cleaners quite a bit. They ride independently from the road units, and I do think that provides a smoother ride and whatnot. And our strip till ground, I like that gauge wheel right there, kind of packs stuff down if you get a little bit of clods. And then on the back of it, we have Yetter cast twisters, which for closing systems, these are simple and they're very effective. I like those quite a bit. That was something I requested, and yeah, we got them on there and really like those. So we do have a liquid system here with the John Blue pump. Full disclosure, I've never ran liquid fertilizer on a corn planter in my life. That was put there. It's for options if we would like to try that, or for resale if we do not buy this planter. It's, I think, easier for them to sell it if it has a liquid system on it from the factory. So there's that. I think it's an 800-gallon tank. One thing that I believe is different on the Masseys from some of the other planters that are of a similar frame design, we've got 6 wheels here and then 2 on the wings. Initially I thought that was a lot of wheels. I've never noticed it being an issue as far as compaction. I guess if anything, maybe it spreads the weight out a little bit more versus just having 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So overall, been very happy with the planter. Really had little issues from the precision's meters. I think I've fried 1 speed tube, maybe. No, I had a belt delaminate, so I put a whole new speed tube in it, and we were good to go. Now, my main complaint with this planter is our seed tank. Now, I've got all my stops on, and I really just don't feel like taking them off. I mean, this ladder is typically pretty low to the ground. Like I said, I just don't want to take my stops off. So, I'm not going to, because I'm kind of lazy. And good grief, I'm a grain farmer, not a cattle farmer. But maybe we can finagle our way up here. Man, some of them planned out their varieties pretty good there. Or there's a blank spot in the field. We'll find out soon. Now, it's not the shape, and the shape's kind of the problem. It's not the color. I like that they're white. It's easy to see your seed level. My main complaint is the size. This is a 90 unit system. Each tank's 45 units. Now, if you're not familiar with ordering corn hybrids or never really planted corn, you may not think, well, what's the big deal? I mean, that's 90 units of corn seed. That's still a lot of seed. I mean, that's 200 acres of seed, 200 plus. The main problem is, most of the time, corn units come in 50 unit boxes. So my main complaint is that if I've got 1 hybrid and 100 units of it, and it's in 2 corn boxes, I've now got to fill up, go plant about 25 acres, and then come back to get my seed tender empty. I wish that was not the case. I wish, if anything, these were 110 units, because even with these being 45 units a piece, it's very difficult to do that because of the way that they are designed. They're very streamlined. I assume that's for height purposes. Not 100%. I wish there was a way to make this easier to get into. I mean, it's hard to get seed up to the front of these boxes, but I wish that these were 110 units. Then it wouldn't be an issue. I mean, I know you got to stop at some point, but if there are 110 units of total capacity, it'd be very easy to cram a 50 unit box in there in each one of these. So I guess that would be my main complaint with the planter. Really, that's about the only complaint. Climb back down here and see if we can't do it without breaking any bones. Definitely not recommended to do it this way. you're not supposed to be lazy, and you're supposed to take your stops off and lower your whole planter frame. Okay. I mean, as far as planters go, are there some out there that have more bells and whistles? Yeah, like there's no weight distribution system. I mean, we got a couple suitcase weights out here, and that's because we don't have markers. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't even have those. But this is not as complex. I mean, there's not a lot of things that'll go wrong as far as how the bar performs, which, and the older I get, the more I kind of like. I kind of like simplicity. When it comes to planting season and harvest season, those are things that are really under a time crunch. We want to get stuff done efficiently and quickly, and we don't have to wait on things. And so far, this planter has done me a fine job as far as those things are concerned. As far as getting stuff done quickly, I mean, the high-speed planter is, you can do a lot of corn with a 60-foot planter that goes 10 miles an hour. And this thing's done beautifully. The precision meters have done great. We've had some of the best stands of corn we've had. Unfortunately, we've had some of the driest growing seasons we've had in the last 10 years. So as far as yield, I can't attest to if it's made a huge difference, because last year we had a drought, and this year we had a great season until about 40 days ago, and it's been a drought ever since. We've actually been upgraded to a moderate drought recently by the Weather Service. So be interested to see what we have, but we do have good stands at least. And I think a lot of that is because of the performance of the planter, and this year the planter and tractor combo, we got everything done quickly and efficiently. So now, before we wrap this review up, one thing I did want to touch on for just a brief second is value. I feel like with both these machines, you're getting a very good value for your buck. I've not priced one of these tractors compared to a Fendt. They're both from AGCO. They'd both be from our same dealership. But I have been told this machine is about 20% cost difference. So 20% on a tractor that probably retails for, I mean, I'd say a new Fendt probably retails for $500,000+ for a 380 horse tractor. It's ridiculous, I know. 20% of that, that's substantial savings. At the end of the day, they're both doing the same job. So if you need a new tractor and you are concerned with your pocketbook, I mean, margins are getting tighter and tighter, it seems like every year. I think it's a very viable option. And the same way with the planter. I have not priced the planter. I don't really know how it compares, but I know it's cheaper than, say, a Momentum planter, which is Fendt's corn planter. Does it do the same thing? It does most of the same things. It does not have the weight distribution, like I say, but I think for what you're getting at that price point that I don't know what is, I guess, I think it's a good value. If you're in the market, I wouldn't be scared of them. I've had zero problems with the tractor. Like I said, I think I had a speed tube on the corn planter. So all in all, pretty good year with both machines. That's kind of my good, bad, and ugly on the planter and the tractor combo. I do want to thank AGCO for the opportunity to run these machines. I really enjoyed it. I like running equipment, and someone asked if I want to try something, I'm probably going to say yes, because I just enjoy it. So if you guys have any more questions, ask me. I'm sure I've forgotten something along the way, but that's what comes to mind at the moment. Thanks for watching. If you would do me a favor, thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Harvest is just, I mean, it's literally a few days away at this point, so tune back in. You're not going to miss the first day of that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.